I am delighted on behalf of the community to welcome Janeane Bernstein tonight, one of the members of our community, the author of Get the Funk Out, who has a radio program on 89.9 FM. That's the UCI channel by the same name. And I think, I didn't have my notes. I think it's 9 to 10 a.m. on Fridays. Yes. Janeane, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. I remembered. It's on my to-do list to listen to you tomorrow from 9 to 10.
Not tomorrow, Monday.
On Monday. Okay.
Monday.
There you go. I'm glad you're clarifying it. Monday from 9 to 10. And I have watched Janeane unfolding over just the last 6 months or so, maybe it's a little longer, the release of her book, feeling the excitement that comes with having her book in the world. And when I was talking with Janeane to prepare for her presentation tonight, I became aware that she had a wonderful slideshow to both introduce her topic, which is on self-care and resiliency, which seemed very well suited for this moment for all of us. I'll just pause to thank Dr. Harry Rausch, who was our leadoff presenter. And after that, we had Jacob Green. And this is the third in a series that enable us as a community to feel happy and healthy in what is, sometimes I say it's the twilight zone.
Yes.
With that, I'm going to let Janeane largely introduce herself because I know she has lots of experience in doing so. She's going to talk with us for about 25 or 30 minutes in a kind of an organized way on self-care and resiliency in the time of COVID-19. I will then have the opportunity, and I just want to remind people, because since you're at home, the advantage is you can go to your refrigerator, and that is to say, get a piece of chocolate or two. If there's two of you, like Michael and Jackie Wolf, you'll need 2 pieces of chocolate, so that at the end of Janeane's introduction, she's going to guide us in a little bit of a chocolate meditation. So prepare yourself. And with that, I am just delighted to now learn from Janeane Bernstein.
First of all, I want to say I am very honored, Rabbi. So thank you for asking me to speak tonight. I'm going to just give people a brief little summary of who I am, where I grew up. I grew up in New York City and Connecticut. I attempted to cut my hair in this picture when I was 4. I am a writer. I'm doing a lot of public speaking lately, and I've been a radio host at KUCI since 2007. And I went to Syracuse University and also Boston University. As a side note, I was a terrible student growing up. I really had to learn how to learn. And that happened when I was about 16, thankfully, with the right teachers and the right mindset and my dad guiding me. And I wrote this book, Get the Funk Out, a while ago. I started in a notebook, and then I decided, you know what, this really has to be a book, because it was really about loss, and it was about resilience and taking care of myself through all the things I had been through. And the big event was losing my friend at the end of 2010. So I came up with the idea of a radio show called Get the Funk Out in 2011. I started that. And it was my way of healing and also giving people a platform to share their stories as well. And it's been an incredible gift to me. So I'm doing a lot of talks about resilience and funks, personal and professional. And the focus is making mental, physical, and emotional health a priority. So what I'm going to focus on are some self-care activities that will promote mental, physical, and emotional well-being, as well as spiritual well-being, a strategy to help build resilience, and habits that promote happiness and reduce stress and anxiety, because we have never seen anything like this before. I mean, Rabbi, you've never lived through this when you were younger. this is unheard of. And the amount of stress we're all feeling, it's a really, really important time to take care of ourselves. So I want to do a check-in before we get going and find out, obviously I know some of the worst things that are going on right now and with quarantine, well, really with COVID, but want to check in with everybody individually with what's the worst thing that's going on with you and what are some positive things and what are you doing to take care of yourself right now? And one last thing, have you learned anything new about yourself? So write in the chat, if you could just take a minute to just jot down a few things, that would be great. I don't see anybody typing anything.
Oh, you want to do it on the computer?
I'll share. Family time, game night, sometimes a lot of togetherness. Can't go shopping. Very worried about my kids. I can get a lot done in an hour when I do go out. Yes, a lot of people are worried about money. You know, people have lost their jobs. Millions of people are out of work. And I was actually speaking to the rabbi. I'm going to start an online series for people that want to work remotely. And I've got some people lined up to talk about how to find employment right now. Sharing Zoom with family and friends. Distance walking. It's really important to get out. I see a lot of people when I walk early in the morning, about 7:30, there are people out walking. Later in the evening, people are out walking. It's really important to get out of your house. Okay, great. Self-care, that's really good. Hi, Susan. Meditation, walks, dancing. I know it's really hard to not be able to hug your family. I like what Sandra said, learning more about my inner self, listening to friends. It's very hard for people that live alone. I have a stepmom in Florida and I'm constantly calling her to check in. Homeschooling is really challenging. All right, thank you for sharing. I'm going to move on. If I can get the slide to move. Okay, so I'm sure some of you are in a funk, whether it's personal, professional, both. That's a given. We're all going through the hardest time we've ever experienced. But how you deal with this really affects everything, your mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health, everything. And I discovered really there's two ways, which is obvious. The negative path, you have negative thoughts about yourself, which leads to negative behaviors, overeating, maybe over drinking or drinking the wrong things, just not taking care of yourself. And when I lost my friend, I started working out way too much to the point of injury. And I wasn't on the positive path yet. I had to kind of figure that out through a learning experience. And the positive obviously is, you know what, I can get through this. I can do this. I'm going to be good to myself. I'm going to take care of my whole self, not just one part of me. So I came up with this idea based on my book, Get the Funk Out. But this has to do with four things: gratitude, thoughtfulness, flow, and optimism. And I'm going to explain each one of those. So the first one, gratitude. I know you're all familiar with this, but it really does improve your attitude and your focus on being thankful. It really helps you increase your appreciation for the people and the things in your life. It helps you acknowledge the goodness in your life. I mean, I woke up the other day and I thought, wow, some people don't have a roof over their head. You know, people don't know how to make their mortgage payments. They don't know how to put food on the table right now. You really have to acknowledge what the goodness in your life is right now at this very moment, because all this will increase your positive emotions, improve your well-being, and help build relationships with your family, with friends, maybe even a neighbor down the street. And it definitely promotes empathy and compassion. So here's one more thing I want you to do. I'd like you to just write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for right now. And maybe later on, pick one person and write them a little note. Maybe you read it to them over the phone or you mail it to them, but no texting, no emojis, none of that. So for starters, let's just focus on the 3 to 5 things or people you're grateful for. And if you could just put a few ideas in the chat, that would be great. Okay, I'll start. Family, health, safety, one of my best friends who checks in on me, who knows all about my challenges. That's really nice, Susan. Thank you. Neighbors that help out. Medical workers. And my family's healthy now. Good friends who care. This is the most important time to check in with people. Even if you have a neighbor that you don't really know personally, you should check in with them, especially if you know they live alone. And I don't know what we'd do if we didn't have Zoom and all this technology. Definitely thankful to healthcare workers. Thank you, Jay. Family and the neighbor who cuts my hair. Living in a nice home and neighborhood. Beautiful weather for walks. That's true. Imagine if we lived where we had snow. For my wife, for the fact we're not in business anymore. Hi, Michael. Hi, Jackie. Yeah, very true. I know somebody who sold their business at the end of December. Many reasons for feeling grateful. Fantastic. Thank you all. And think about writing a note to somebody later on. Okay, so here's how to cultivate gratitude. Keeping a journal is a great way to write things down as they come to you. You can keep a little notepad in your purse. Obviously, we're not going out, so we're probably not carrying purses, but just having something with you, next to you, next to your bed, to just jot things down, and definitely calling and writing to someone to thank them, telling them you appreciate them. For instance, I wrote to a teacher a long time ago who inspired me to write when I was 15. So just those little acts of kindness are so important. And practicing mindful meditation, which we're going to do something a little later on, and also focusing on the positive or the learning moments in these challenging times, because I do believe there are learning moments in this quarantine. You just have to find them. So I'm going to talk about thoughtfulness. The first step is thoughtfulness for yourself. So having compassion for yourself. Now, some days you might want to cry, you might want to scream, you're completely stressed. You have to let yourself feel those feelings. Those are all normal feelings because, as I said, we're very, very challenged. So have compassion for yourself and tune into your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Maybe you just want to go sit outside by yourself under a tree and just enjoy nature and think about whatever it is you want to think about. I think about my dad. I have his prayer book. I'll go and touch it and I'll think of him. Just anything that makes you feel really complete and happy right now would help. And then definitely making self-care a priority is so important, and having positive habits that last long-term. You have to have key things to help you manage your stress and anxiety right now, because we're filled with a lot of that. And then being a detective when it comes to your well-being. So maybe there's a person in your life that is not so good for you. Maybe they're kind of negative, or maybe you have a behavior that's harmful. It could be the simplest thing, like, if you're an emotional eater and you find yourself at 10 o'clock down in the pantry when everybody's asleep, and you're binging on cookies, you have to kind of dial into what's going to make me feel really good as a whole person right now. And then there's, did I skip ahead? I hope not. These are some of the self-care things I kind of tweaked, and these are in my book, but I tweaked them because these have to do with where we're living right now in the quarantine. So sleep. I mean, some people say they can live off of 5, 6 hours. That's not me personally, but sleep is really important. And I gave a talk to a group in Connecticut recently, and the moms were saying, you know, routines are so key, especially for teens and really anybody, because when you have that routine of, I'm going to get up, I'm going to eat breakfast, I'm going to do these things, you feel a little more human and more organized, as opposed to, I'm going to stay up really late and I'm going to sleep till 1 o'clock. You know, a lot of us can't do that, but you get my point. Spending time with your pets has been wonderful, especially for our family. And then just finding time for these key things like yoga, meditation, mindfulness, pampering. I know my daughters do face masks and they like to cook. We talked about getting outside is really important, and exercising, and definitely connecting, because we are social people. Humans are meant to be social. So what we're doing now, we're connecting through Zoom, people connect through TikTok. And some of the things I also like are painting and drawing and writing, or perhaps you're going to get online and you want to learn something. I mean, now is the time. Let's say you have a guitar sitting around the house and it's collecting dust, or a piano. You can get online and you can get free lessons and just actually learn something right now. And then reading is a great escapism, and watching shows that make you laugh, make you feel good, and inspire you. So I talked about thoughtfulness for yourself. Next is thoughtfulness for others, being compassionate, having empathy, being patient, definitely acts of kindness. Typically I talk about volunteering, but we can't do that right now, but you can donate your time, your resources, and reach out to people. Like I said, maybe it's even neighbors. I heard some of you talk about that. That's really important. And reach out by phone, or agree to meet outside at a safe distance and just chat face to face. But also just be in tune to someone else's mental, physical, and emotional health right now, because there's a lot of people going through all kinds of things. I want to just introduce you to Harriet. Harriet passed away in October. But Harriet was someone we met when my daughter was 13, and she was 93 at the time. And my daughter needed to do community service. So we went to Heritage Park, not Heritage Park. I forget the name of retirement home. Heritage Point. Thank you. And we started spending time with her, and it was supposed to just be Tovia, but it became all of us. And we play cards and Scrabble and do all these things. And she became like family to us, and we're, you know, really close to her family. So my point is, it's really important always, not just now, to reach out to people who, you know, who need that connection. They need that just connection with somebody that's not even related half the time. By the way, if you have any questions, put them in the chat as I go along. So flow. This is a mental state some of you get into, but you maybe not sure you have heard of this before. Many of you might not be able to pronounce this gentleman's name. It took me a while. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi is a co-founder of positive psychology, along with Martin Seligman and Jay Witzling. You know, I talked about this at the Science of Happiness event, but he was the first to research flow. So for instance, when I was writing my book, I'd be at the library for like 3 or 4 hours in this zone with my music on, and time would just fly by. So it really helps you, when you get in that flow, increase your creativity, your self-esteem. It makes you happy. It makes you intrinsically motivated. And it's an unbelievable experience. So I would suggest anybody at any age, try to find something that gets you in that flow state. I mean, here I have this guy playing guitar, but anything that brings you joy, whether it's music, drawing, painting, anything, it is definitely an uplifting experience. This is a friend of mine, Kim Perkins, Dr. Kim Perkins, and she was a professional inline skater, speed skater. She was in my Science of Happiness event, and here's her example of flow right here. I want to just ask some of you, if you are doing things to put you in a state of flow right now, if you are painting, if you are drawing, if you're doing anything creative or getting outside, if you could just put that in the chat. Thank you. Oops. went back. I'll start. Sandra's writing music and playing playing piano by ear. That's fantastic. Long bike rides. Morning walks. Cooking with my air fryer. Photography. That's wonderful, Mindy. And if you have young kids or grandkids, this is a great time to get them involved in something as well. Sewing, knitting, writing my memoir. Oh, that's wonderful. And poems, teaching remotely. 12,000 steps a day. Great, Mindy. Gardening. That's a good one. Resharpening my Rubik's Cube skills. All right, we'll just take a few more and then I'll go on. Anybody else? Okay. Babysitting my grandsons. Okay. So optimism is the last part of the GTFO, and it's so important. It's just this attitude that can really affect your mental and physical health, and it can also help reduce a person's stress and increase your longevity. So I want to talk about some of the habits of happy people. I already addressed some of them. So happy people, they do acts of kindness. You know, you might be going through your own thing, but when you reach out to somebody else, you kind of forget about whatever it is you're dealing with because you're helping somebody else, and it's really important. And happy people also nurture their relationships. They take care of their physical health. They experience flow, as I mentioned. They're optimistic, mindful, and grateful. And they have meaning through spirituality. And they also practice mindfulness, being in the present moment, not thinking about the past, the future, being present, having that sense of awe. Like sometimes I'll look outside and I'll see the sun setting and it's gorgeous. And I think, this is magnificent. But normally I'm so busy. Now with the quarantine, I have more time to look out the window. So if it's okay with you, Rabbi, can we do the chocolate meditation?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Oh, one thing I forgot to do I have, how much time do I have?
As much as you want.
Okay. I wanted to read a happiness pledge for my book. It goes like this. I will start each day by taking a deep breath and focusing on my gratitude. I will work on myself every day by taking care of my mental, physical, and emotional well-being. I will strive to instill happiness in my life because happiness makes me a better person in my relationships. I will strive to achieve realistic goals and fulfill my ambitions, but not feel derailed if they do not come to fruition. I will trust my gut and stay tuned to when things do not feel right. I will not change myself to please others. I will live my life according to my own internal compass. I will tell myself I am worthy of love, happiness, and joy, and I will love myself. I will surround myself with people that make me happy, my tribe, my posse, my people, and I will try things that are new and different because the unexpected can bring joy. And obviously, we're not expected to walk around with huge permanent smiles on our face all the time, but it's something to work on by taking care of your whole self. So let's move on to the chocolate meditation. I hope nobody has eaten it. That's rule number one. So here's a mindfulness meditation using something most of us like, chocolate. Now, some people do this with a raisin, but I'm going to have you do the chocolate if you can. So everyone take their piece of chocolate and now hold it gently in your hand. Now close your eyes and take some deep breaths in and out. Make sure you're sitting comfortably and allow your body to relax and feel supported. Notice the sounds in the room and gradually bring your attention inward to your breath. Take a few moments just breathing and being aware of how it feels to be here right now. Notice the shape and contours of the chocolate. Move it from hand to hand and notice the weight of the chocolate. Bring it to your nose and see if you notice a scent. Go ahead and unwrap it now. Notice the sound it makes, the texture, the shape of the chocolate, and take in all the details. Move it towards your nose and breathe in the smell of the chocolate. Move it towards your mouth. Do not eat it, just hold it there. What sensations, emotions, and thoughts do you notice? What is going through your mind and body right now? Notice any urges you feel to eat it, but gently bring your attention back to the sensation of the chocolate in your hand. Now open your eyes and look at the piece of chocolate in your hand. What color is it? How does it feel? Do you feel a sense of anticipation or an urge to immediately put the chocolate in your mouth? What physical sensations do you have? And what are you feeling? Does the smell trigger any of the senses? Okay, now place the chocolate in your mouth, but don't eat it. Enjoy the taste and the flavors, subtle and strong. How does it feel? Hold the chocolate in your mouth for as long as possible, letting it melt, letting your tongue explore its texture and taste. Where in your mouth can you taste it? What is the consistency? And what is happening with your mouth, your teeth, and your tongue as it melts? Move the chocolate around your mouth. Does the taste change? What is happening to the chocolate? And how do you feel? Now, swallow the chocolate, focusing on the sensation. Is there a lingering taste? How do you feel physically and emotionally? Take a little while to consider the experience. How is this different from your regular chocolate eating experiences? More intense? More pleasurable? Frustrating? Would you change your future experience of eating chocolate, and why? Now bring your attention back to your breath and to your feelings. Close your eyes, rest for a moment, just breathing, and be aware of how you feel. Is it different in any way than how you felt at the start of the meditation? Bring your attention back to the rest of the room, the sounds you hear, the weight of your body in that chair, and your feet touching the ground. You can open your eyes. So in the chat, if you could just tell me how you feel right now, that would be great. Content. Happy, I like chocolate. I love chocolate, it increases the pleasure. Relaxed. And that's the whole point of this, is to really dial down the speed of our lives and find moments to savor things, to not rush through everything. Does anybody have any questions or comments about anything I went over? If anybody wants to contact me, I put my website and how you can listen to my show. And there's information on my website about my book right there.
Hi.
Hi.
How about for morning meditation? First thing when you get up in the morning, you get up and say, behold God, I'm prepared to obey your commandment of loving my neighbor as myself.
I like that.
You love your neighbor, you love yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Committing to both.
Yes. We have a lot of older neighbors in our neighborhood, and there was a woman that lived across the street, and one time she fell, or one time, you know, she would just stand outside and garden. We were just constantly in conversation with her all the time. And it's important to do that, to reach out to anybody, especially right now. I hope anybody who's on this call who lives alone, you know, has somebody that is reaching out to them, has family. If you don't, I'll call you. So that's it for my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let me
Thank you.
begin a conversation for the next 20 minutes or so, not just from me, but from all of us. And if you, as a community and you're listening, want to ask Janeane a question, you can either do it by chat, or if you have a computer, you can push your space button, and while it's down, that removes the mute, and you can speak.
Okay.
So you mentioned, Janeane, that you have the radio program.
I do.
How has it changed in the last 2 or 3 months? What have you gained by what has been your sense of how it's different, your audience and your own choice of topics?
It's very interesting because I have always had the ability to record my show from home. I have a little studio here for voiceover work. But back in March, we were told for safety reasons, everybody has to work remotely, and we didn't have to I could have just aired reruns. But I saw this as a great opportunity to have conversations with people, to see what they were going through. And the people I know that are actors and they're involved in voiceover and things like that, they're creating, they're working on things, which I find very inspiring. Like I like to write scripts. So I just worked on a short script and it makes me feel good. That's my flow. That's my optimism. It just fulfills me to do creative things. So I'm having these conversations with people who are sharing what they're going through. And some people, they're calling from Australia, from Vienna, from New York, they're calling from all over. And I do them as pre-recorded, and then I upload them to my show blog. And my show blog is at the bottom, Get the Funk Out Show, and every show is there. So if somebody says, Janeane, I have this event and we're raising money for this because of COVID, then I immediately edit it, put it up, and people can listen to it right away. So I'm doing it as a urgency if needed, if somebody really wants to promote something. And the conversations are wonderful.
So I saw that on the chat, Jay Witzling, who was one of the people to bring you to the Science Center to do a little symposium on happiness, said people should read your book.
Oh, I haven't.
So you want to show your book? Yeah.
There's my book.
Get the Funk Out. Nicely done.
And I should tell you, if you don't mind me interrupting.
No.
There are over, let's see, I think there's 24 people from my show in this book. And this is why this book happened, because I kept having these really inspiring, meaningful conversations. And I said to a friend of mine who writes for Forbes, I think I have a book. And then I wasn't very confident about it. So I let time go by. And then around 2017, my friend called into my show again and she said, how's the book going? I said, it's not. Why not? Oh, I don't know. She said, you have to call my editor. Come on, this is a book. So I started writing this book on airplanes when I would go see my dad, and he was very sick because he had cancer. So I would write everything in this notebook and I would get home and type it all up. And I liked it because I was held accountable. Like, come on, let's do it already, you know? And that's how the book came about, through my personal stories, but the stories of some incredible people sharing how they went through things and what they learned as a result.
And having finished the book and now having traveled and entered into the world of COVID, what do you think is one thing you would now add to your book? So if you're writing that new epilogue, what would you add?
Well, and I mentioned this to you, I'm going to start talking about how self-care is great, resilience is great, gratitude is great, but what about the people that have lost somebody and they need to go back to work, or they don't have a job? And how are those people going to find resilience? So those stories in itself right there, people are going to be starting new chapters because they can't go back to the way things were. And people are going to be working remotely, and we're very challenged right now, and they're going to be going into phase 2 of what they're going to do with themselves. So there's going to be more and more stories coming out of resilience and how people got through this. And for some, not everybody, I say sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing. I mean, there could be some people that hated their job, you know, but for many, there's millions of people out of work right now, and it's just heartbreaking. And then all the people working in the front lines, the healthcare workers. So that's going to be story after story right there.
And you said that what you're now shifting to give attention to is jobs. Talk a
Right.
little bit about your sense of how you can make a difference.
So the other morning, because I take walks every morning, I was thinking, like I said, what about the millions of people out of work? And, you know, I'll look online for freelance writing things because I have a background in freelance writing. And there's so many things are remote, and nobody knows when businesses are going to open necessarily. And so I called the Orange County Business Journal and I said, well, who's hiring? Are you able to tell me that? Because I'd like to do an online series inviting people who understand what's going on economically, what's going on in the job market, and where are the jobs? Because people, they go on, let's say Indeed, and it's like a black hole, sending resumes, never hearing anything. Maybe the jobs are old. I would like to know what's happening right now. And Forbes came out with an article online talking about different sites where you can work remotely. So I contacted the person who wrote the article and I said, would you come on the series? And I'm waiting to hear back. And then a friend of mine who works for CNBC and now NASDAQ, she's going to be part of it. And so I want to get as many people, at least a dozen people, to share information to get people back working remotely.
Sounds good. Good goal.
Yeah.
So our audience, Janeane's audience, what has Janeane shared? Or if you will, what is something that is giving you the funk, putting you in the funk that you'd want to gain Janeane's guidance on? So a question. So while they're thinking about one question, and you can either do it on chat or live, tell me about how you came to your title. How you came to the title, Get the Funk Out.
So at the end of 2010, my friend Shannon passed away suddenly, and I was so devastated. I left the radio station for a year. And
what had you been doing at the radio station?
I was hosting a music show.
What kind of music?
It was called Moms Rock the House. And it was indie music, but I would also interview people like Kathy Valentine of the Go-Go's and some mainstream people, because they were doing other kinds of music that I could play. Like Lisa Loeb came out with a kids album. So I was constantly involved in music. I was producing some music events featuring women artists and going to different events. And I loved the show. It was great. And I even had live bands in the studio. But when I found out my friend passed away, I just was a wreck. I couldn't focus. I mean, people would talk to me and it was like, the words were just going like this. So I took time off and I started writing and over exercising to the point of injury. But I thought, I'm in a funk. You know, I want to go back to the station, but I want it to be a talk show because I'm ready for that. I really wanted to do talk radio. So I came up with the idea. My dad said he did not like it, which was funny. And I said, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And I ran it by people wherever I'd go, at a party, family gathering, and it's kept resonating with me and with other people as a way for people to share their stories. And also, typically when someone pitches me a guest and says, I've got this great film, I've got this great author, sure, I want to know about that, but I'll also ask, do they have a backstory? Is there something they went through that's why they wrote that book or produced that film? And usually there is. And so I started the show in 2011, and it was so helpful to me because I actually would talk to my friend Shannon's friends on air. I got to interview so many more people because it was a talk show, not a music show. And I have made these great contacts and connections with PR firms all over. And it's amazing. Sometimes if I'm having a down day, a book will show up from Penguin Random House about how to be creative, you know, in midlife. And it just feels like a gift to me to have the show.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Again, people, we're going to go for another 5-10 minutes. You can chat questions.
I see one.
You do?
Yes. Sandra says, finding purpose while at home alone. How do you find purpose in your life?
Oh, good. I didn't see that. I'm glad you did. So
Well,
repeat the question one more time, Janeane, and then go for it.
okay. Sandra asked, it looks like, how do you find purpose while you're at home alone? How do you find purpose in your life? That's a really good question. It depends how old you are. I mean, if you want to volunteer to do something from home to help somebody, I see these organizations. There was something in the OC Register where people actually call other people up and see how they are and what they're doing. But there are things you can do at home to help other people, and that will pull you up and out. Like I said, depending on how old you are, you could do part-time remote tutoring. If you were a teacher or you are a teacher, you know, or you used to do something, you could try to get back into it. There's so much stuff going on remotely right now. Everything is remote.
I know there's a lot of grandparents listening as
Mm-hmm.
part of this. There's a lot of parents too, but there's grandparents. What's your guidance for grandparents in this moment? All too often, grandparents, some cases, but not all, get the hugs that they would like. Talk a little bit about grandparents and this moment.
Yes. I know, for instance, it's very easy to stay home when you're older. My stepmom is in her 80s. She's home. She doesn't go out much. I'll even say, go sit outside with a chair as people stroll by, just to engage with other people. Or if you're older and you have a friend that you cannot go to dinner with, invite them to go sit in your driveway with a chair. Just social distance, but you can still be face to face from a distance. And I think that's really important. You could all bring lunch outside and meet in your driveway or out front, or take a walk. But it's so important to get out of your house in some capacity. I mean, Zoom is great, but it's not everything. So I would say to get out as much as possible, to sit outside, you know, we're fortunate that we have the sun, and people walk depending where you live, but try to make plans with people that can come to see you and sit outside or walk somewhere or do something, so you don't feel like you are completely stuck at home alone.
I'll just add to that, Janeane. People have told me of doing dinner parties with friends via Zoom or FaceTime.
Yeah.
One of the so that they invite people over as if they were in the same room.
Yes.
They might each have their respective dinners and have time to engage with each other.
Yes. Someone said that they called 64 people and it didn't do it for them. Sometimes you probably need to maybe think about something you'd like to do. I always say, as we get older, we lose our sense of creativity, or, we think, oh, we're too old to do that. And now's the time to go back to what you once loved to do. I want to just interject. I interviewed this woman, Jackie Krisher. She's 87 now, and she became a triathlete in her early 80s. Someone said, you can't do that. She was 77. So just trying to find something that nurtures you, but maybe connects you with other people as well. There was something somebody said. How can I back the chat up? Is there a way to back the chat up? Oh, wait, here, I got it. Okay, hold on. I have a sense we're moving to a nicer, friendlier time in communicating with strangers. People have realized that they need people. When I walk, I make a point of saying hello to total strangers to see what reaction I get, because everybody's in a mask, and sometimes they look up, sometimes they look away. I don't take it personally. Sometimes people just ignore me. But I think it's really important to say hello to a total stranger, because we're all like this and afraid. Hi won't do anything. It'll just be contagious, Donnie, you wanted to share something from the Gaga Sisterhood. Donnie is our cousin from up north. Please do. That'd be great.
Hi, everybody. I
Hi.
really enjoyed your talk, Janeane.
Thank you.
Great to see you. I learned more about you. I started a social network for grandmas called the Gaga Sisterhood in 2003, after witnessing the birth of my first granddaughter. And I recently asked all of my members, I have about 80 members, to send me stories of creative ways that they've been connecting with their grandchildren when they can't be there in person. And I got some really great stories. One of them was a grandma who's teaching her granddaughters about characters from the Bible. And every Friday they get together over the Zoom, and she tells a story about one of the characters from the Bible. And then another one sent me a story today about a tea party that she had with her 10-year-old granddaughter. She made scones and she dropped them off at her granddaughter's house without going in. And then they got all dressed up and they had a fancy little tea over Zoom.
I love it.
There's 8 more ideas on my Gaga Sisterhood website.
Maybe people could connect with you, Donnie.
I'd love it. I love meeting grandmas. I've met thousands of grandmas in the past 17 years.
So to take it down one generation, Janeane, as a mom with 2 young women, what have you found is helpful in your guiding and helping with their resilience right now?
As kids get older, they want time to themselves, and I understand, but it's important to connect during the day because, I'm busy, they have schoolwork, but we can't always be busy all the time. And I'll encourage them to take a walk, get sun, because the sun has really helped them feel like less depressed, less anxious. It just makes you feel good. At least we have the opportunity to sit in the sun in our backyard. We're very blessed. So just trying to have them express what they're feeling is really key because they're both feeling a lot of things. My youngest, we went outside last night to walk the dog and there was a sign from our local school congratulating her on her graduation. Ugh, so sad, so sad. And I sent an email today saying, couldn't we do like small group graduation when the time is right? It's with social distancing, just to have a graduation, even if it's July, because this is a huge milestone. And even 8th graders I was talking to, they feel it. They're not graduating. And college students. So there's sadness. And I just kind of talk it out. Just, you have to be there. You have to be present and know when it's time to get off your phone, get off your laptop, and look your kid right in the eye and give them your 100%, because they are hurting differently from the way the adults are hurting. It's unsettling for them.
So I'm going to just share some of the things out loud that are on our chat. These are largely by grandparents who've been touched by the Gaga sisters, as well as your comments, Janeane, about grandparenting. And that is Miriam, who shares that she's doing baking classes with her grandchildren. Lindy, who reads a book together with her granddaughter over FaceTime. And Sandra, who has dance parties with my younger grandkids.
Cute.
And plays Lincoln Logs, where Sandra builds at their direction. So you're teaching them good supervisory skills.
That's great.
And I am teaching my grandson, Jim writes how to ride a bicycle. And every time he rides that bicycle, Jamjid is going to think about you.
Yes.
And how you got him riding.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So what would be your closing thought for us tonight, Janeane, for us to go off into the night with?
I would just think about those 4 things I mentioned: gratitude, thoughtfulness for yourself and for others, the flow, finding something you enjoy doing, and optimism. And just know that, you know, it's hard, but if you take really good care of yourself and you take 1 step forward each day, things will get better. And again, focusing on your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health is really, really key.
Well, thank you. And your own story of moving forward and doing it creatively and finding your own flow is a good role model for me, and I'm sure for all of us.
Thank you.
And it's just been a wonderful added bonus to see everybody gathered here in the Hollywood Squares.
Yes.
To be able to share time with each other. I learned something I didn't know, which is I didn't know that Michael and Jackie had left their printing business that I've always been so grateful for and reliant on. So great to have everybody together. Janeane, you brought us together, and more, you left us.
I'm honored. I'm very honored. Thank you.
Thank you. To all, we follow Donna's lead in clapping for you and thanking you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody. Oh, a
Thank
plug.
you so much.
Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, is a special kind of Kabbalat Shabbat with Amy Robinson Katz. She's going to be joined by Rabbi Adam Greenwald, by Carl Cedar and Liav Sofer. A very musical celebration at 6 o'clock. Saturday, my service with Amy at 10 o'clock from the synagogue. So thank you all. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take care. Bye.
Good job, Janeane.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lovely. Aren't you glad you listened?
Did you
Learned a
record
lot.
this? Did you record this?
It did get recorded tonight, Janeane.
Okay. All right.
And we'll
Wonderful.
post it on our CBI website.
Lovely.
Thank you for letting us go longer.
You're welcome. Well, you had a lot to share.
Yeah. It's really touching a lot of people. It's very interesting because as I said, I gave this to college kids and other people, and I'm doing another Science of Happiness event, and it's timely, you know, people are going through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
I took a positive psychology class at Orange Coast College, and I remember that person with the long name.
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi? I know.
And you know, it's so true what you said. Sometimes horrible experience turn out to be the best learning experience and opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it you know, for me, it hasn't even been a hardship. And I do live alone, but I have so many nice friends.
Oh,
And,
good. Good.
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting, Miriam. When my dad was sick, we were prepping for my daughter's bat mitzvah, my younger daughter, and I remember writing a speech, and I made it into a rhyme, and I gave it to the rabbi, and because I read it, and he says, "I'll take that, thank you." And I realized that I really wanted to be a writer more than ever.
Yeah.
In that moment, through my pain of what I was going through, that I needed to be a writer.
Yeah. You know, I went through a, painful divorce. My kids stopped talking to me for over 3 years. They were adults. But now I couldn't be closer to my older son. And we have a relationship now that we never would have had.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I also discovered that I can act.
See?
So stressed and nervous and
What's that error? Does it sound
improv. Yeah, so it's a
Wonderful.
Yeah, we must.
so much. I really enjoyed this talk. This is one of the
I'm so
better
glad.
get-togethers I've been to.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're doing. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and I'm sharing my yeast. A friend is coming over. She wants to bake challah tomorrow.
Oh, good.
So I have a lot of yeast in my freezer. So
If you want to listen in on any of my other things I have coming up, just email me.
oh, I'll do that. I would
Because
love
I
to.
have some other things. I have something coming up. It'll be taped because it'll be on Saturday. It's at 11. But it'll be taped. And then there's other things coming up. I'll be giving other talks.
No, what is your website? I mean, what is your email? Because I see
Can you see it on the screen? info@JaneaneBernstein.com.
So that's your email.
Yeah, that's my email.
Okay, great. I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Wonderful meeting you.
Stay
Bye-bye.
well.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Deb. Hi, David. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Janine, one thing I didn't say is that we've been playing board games with the girls.
That was
And
at the
how much-
beginning.
What?
That was at the beginning.
I had my class. I wasn't on there.
No. I meant we were playing board games at the beginning. Now they're
right.
like, leave us alone with the games.
And then as I said, except, with all the cooking that they're doing, with all the cookies and food they're making, I put on a few pounds.
Yeah.
Some people are calling this the COVID-19 in terms of gaining 19 pounds.
Right. Exactly. That's funny.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janine. It was wonderful.
I'm so glad. Thanks for listening, Deb.
Nice
My
to see
pleasure.
you, Deb.
All right.
Nice to see
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone. Shabbat
Bye,
shalom. Bye, Rob.
Shabbat shalom.
I just, you can unmute it.